6:15. This is the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Here's the news edited by Dulmin Samarasinghe and read by Rumesh Piris. First, the headlines. The ceremonial opening of the third session of the 9th Parliament is scheduled for tomorrow. Adverse weather conditions reported from parts of the country. The Cabinet approves additional duty concession allowance for migrant workers. Organizations will be able to register multiple vehicles with one business registration number from next week. 6 passengers returning from Dubai are arrested by the CID with over 3 kilograms of gold. In news overseas, Taiwan is bracing for a potential show-off force from China. And in sports Commonwealth Games, Yupuna Bekun qualifies for men's 100-meter semi-final. Kantika Beratne establishes a Sri Lanka record in the 800 meters event. Now the local news in detail. The ceremonial opening of the third session of the 9th Parliament is scheduled for tomorrow. According to the Department of Communication of the Parliament, President Ranil Wickremesinghe has given directives to commence the new parliamentary session without a guard of honour, salutes and ceremonial horses. The presidential flag will not be hoisted at the event. The second session of the 9th Parliament was prorogued through an extraordinary Gazette notification issued by the President on July 28, 2022, in accordance with the powers vested in him by the Constitution. Meanwhile, Secretary General of the Parliament, Dhammika Dasanayake, has called on all MPs in writing to attend the third session of the 9th Parliament upon entering the chamber. President Wickremesinghe will preside over the ceremonial sitting of the new parliamentary session. Thereafter, the General Secretary of Parliament will read out the proclamation proroguing the Parliament and summoning the meeting of the House. Afterwards, President Wickremesinghe is scheduled to deliver the government's policy statement. According to the order paper of the House, the Parliament will be adjourned until 1 p.m. on August 9th. 4 lives have been claimed by the adverse weather conditions reported in parts of the country over the past few days. According to the Disaster Management Centre, Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Galle and Ratnapura districts are the hardest hit. The DMC statistics revealed that at least 7,649 people belonging to 1,766 families have been affected by the prevailing heavy rains and gusty winds. More than 3,000 people of 634 families have been evacuated to safe locations. Meanwhile, 25 houses sustained partial damages. Speaking on the prevailing inclement weather, Director of Irrigation Hydrology SPC Sugaiswara said that the flood situation is expected to increase in high-lying areas of Nilbala and Kalu River basins if the prevailing rainfall continues. He also noted that the water levels of Mausakale, Castlereagh, Upper Kothmale and Victoria reservoirs have increased substantially. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Navy says it has kept 48 relief teams standby to provide relief to the people who are likely to be affected by flash floods. Sri Lanka Army has rescued a total of about 120 civilians trapped due to a landslide that occurred along the road patch between Ravana Thenna Makumbra and Talawa Thenna in Kothmale New Town. The government has given approval for 2 proposals submitted by Labour and Foreign Employment Minister Manusha Nanakara to promote migrant worker remittances. Accordingly, the provisions of an additional duty concession allowance of migrant workers based on the remittances transmitted through official channels upon their arrival was approved by the Chief Ministers. Further, a license to import an electric vehicle equivalent to 50% of the remittance transmitted through legal channels was also received the approval. This news broadcast comes to you from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. Minister of Power and Energy, Kanchana Wijesekara, has issued an update regarding registering multiple vehicles on the National Fuel Pass or QR code for government vehicles, organizations and businesses. In a Twitter message, he requested to register each vehicle with a separate mobile phone number and identity card, passport or business registration number of the vehicle, driver or any user of the vehicle on the National Fuel Pass. He said from the 12th of August, government institutions, organizations and businesses with multiple vehicles will be able to register with one business registration number or code assigned to them and with one specific mobile number for all their vehicles. He added that the temporary QR code obtained should be deleted when doing so. 6 passengers returning from Dubai had been arrested by the Criminal Investigation Department at the Katunayaka airport with 3.1 kilograms of gold jewellery and 39 iPhones, which they attempted to smuggle out without paying customs duties today. Police say the passengers, including 2 women who arrived in the country, were checked by the CID officers when they came out of the arrival terminal after passing to custom areas. The officers recovered gold, which they were wearing as jewellery, and the rest hidden in their luggage. The CID also recovered 39 iPhones in their luggage. MP Nimal Siripala de Silva has been sworn in as the Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation. He was temporarily resigned from the portfolio on July 6th, pending the completion of an inquiry into bribery allegations against him. Accordingly, he has been reappointed to the position after being acquitted of the bribery charges levelled against him by opposition leader Sajid Premadasa during a recent parliamentary session. The Cabinet has approved the revision of the Canadian Marriage and Divorce Act that requires parental consent for the marriage of a minor and to remove the existing non-conformities. Accordingly, the Cabinet Ministers approved the proposal presented by the Justice, Prison Affairs and Constitutional Reforms Minister to publish it in the Gazette and consequently table it in Parliament for approval. The Director General of Health Services has confirmed another 7 coronavirus-related deaths yesterday, increasing the country's death toll due to the virus to 16,566. According to the Government Information Department, the deaths reported today include 3 males and 4 females. 2 of the victims were between the ages of 30 and 59 years, while the remaining 5 were aged 60 years and above. One of the 3 suspects arrested in connection with the incident of setting fire to President Ranil Wickremesinghe's private residence have been remanded until August 10th by the Colombo Fort Magistrates Court. The other 2 suspects have been granted bail by the court. The Criminal Investigation Department arrested 3 persons in connection with torching the President Wickremesinghe's private residence in Colombo 3 on the 9th of July. And that concludes local news.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
On to the main news story. Health authorities have urged people to exercise the highest level of vigilance since the latest Omicron subvariant of COVID-19, BA.5, is spreading rapidly across the country. The total number of COVID-19 cases increased to 665,739 by yesterday. Around 640,152 patients have fully recovered, while 1,032 patients are currently under medical care at hospitals and homes. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
A strength to your life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
In Watchlight this evening, the Department for Registration of Persons has taken steps to issue birth certificates while including a Sri Lankan identification number for newborn babies from yesterday. Commissioner General Vyani Gunatilaka said the birth certificates are issued in a combined process by Department of Registration of Persons and the Registrar General's Department. He said the pilot program was launched at Gampaha, Dehiwala, Hangurankita, Kurunegala, Ratnapura and Tamankaduwa divisional secretariats yesterday. And that came to you in Watchlight.
Watchlight is brought to you by
A strength to your life. CIB Janajaya Vasana has commenced. Valuable gifts and all bills are on 31st of October. Come to CIB today.
Moving on to a bulletin of world news, first the headlines. Taiwan is bracing for a potential show of force from China. Ukraine and UN welcomes resumption of grain exports. Asia's richest men battle to dominate 5G in India. Now the world news in detail. Taiwan is bracing for a potential show of force from China as US House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was expected to arrive on the island today. Her visit, which is not backed by the White House, would be the first by such a senior US official in decades. Pelosi is the 3rd highest-ranking official in the US government and a long-time critic of Beijing. China has repeatedly warned against the visit and on today said the US would pay the price. A senior official in the Ukrainian grain industry welcomed the departure of a ship loaded with grain from the port of Odessa. It was the first shipment since Russia blocked exports in February. The CEO of Ukrainian Grain Association, Cheria Ivanashko, said it is a good chance for all agricultural market of Ukraine. At the same time, he expressed concern that Russia may ignore the agreements and attack vessels as well as seaports. India's largest auction for 5G airwaves has ended after 7 days, potentially setting the stage for a battle of supremacy over India's digital future between two of Asia's richest men, Gautam Adani and Mukesh Ambani. A total of 72 gigahertz of spectrum was on the block in the auction. India's Telecoms Minister Ashwani Vaishnaw said 71% of what was on offer was sold. The government drew bids worth approximately $19 billion from the three current players. This surpassed expectations as a total bid had more than doubled since the last auction in March 2021. Back to the headlines of the world news. Taiwan is bracing for a potential show of force from China. Ukraine and UN welcome resumption of grain exports. And Asia's richest men battle to dominate 5G in India. And that concludes World News. Moving on to development news. The Wildlife and Forest Resources Conservatory Ministry will increase the facilities to local and foreign tourists who visit the Ruhunu National Sanctuary. Minister Mahinda Amaravira observed the construction work of the resting place which is being built by the Wildlife Department in the sanctuary. The minister instructed the officials to resume constructions. The minister instructed officials to maintain the resting place as a green land. And that was development news.
Sports News is brought to you by
Sampath Bank. We present your future.
Moving on to sports, Commonwealth Games. Sri Lanka's Yupan Abhikun placed first in the heat number 6 of the first round of the 100-meter men's event today at the Commonwealth Games 2022 in Birmingham. The Sri Lankan sprinter finished first with a time of 10.06 seconds to qualify for the semi-finals of the men's 100 meters race, which is scheduled to be held tomorrow. Meanwhile, Gayantika Abiratne established a Sri Lanka record in the Heat 2 of the 800-meter event with a timing of 2 minutes and 0.12 seconds. She became 5th in the race and could not qualify for the semi-finals. In other sports news, first it's golf. Chief Executive Greg Norman says Tiger Woods turned down in the region of $700 million to $800 million to join the new Saudi-backed LIV Golf Series. A host of top players have joined the breakaway tour, which Woods said at last month's Open he disagreed with. More on sports, Paralympic. A record 33 parasports have submitted applications to the part of the Los Angeles 2028 Paralympic program. The 22 sports in the PATHS 2024 program have applied along with arm wrestling, climbing, cerebral palsy, football, golf, karate, para-chance, dance sport, power chair, football, sailing, surfacing, and wheelchair handball. And that was sports news.
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP You Trust.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
In business news, Haley's Fabrics, Varna by Mahogany, the natural dye innovation behind a new line of organic, eco-friendly fabric, was listed among the top 10 global innovations at the ISPO Textrend Spring and Summer 2024. The breakthrough recognition of Varna by Mahogany is expected to further elevate Sri Lanka's reputation as a global pioneer in specialized, sustainable, circular fabric sourcing for the sports apparel sector. And that was Business News.
Business News, sponsored by
Cash through NSP globally and win wonderful gifts locally. Will you be the lucky winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee? 50 gold sovereigns for the top prize winner of the NSP Golden Jubilee. Scooters for the 10 second prize winners. iPhones for the 10 third prize winners. Mountain bikes for the 29 fourth prize winners. From October 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. Remit a minimum of $100 or an equivalent amount in any foreign currency 3 times through NSP You Trust.
In economic news, Sri Lanka tea earnings for January to June 2022 posted a growth of 28% year-on-year to 164.2 million rupees against 127.8 million rupees recorded for the same corresponding period in 2021. According to First Capital, Research export earnings were largely boosted by the price leap upon the steep depreciation of rupee against the US dollar since March 2022, despite the subdued production output. And that was economic news. The weather report coming up. Moving on to the weather report. The Met Department says showery and windy conditions are expected to continue in the western and southern sea areas and in the southwest quarter of the island due to active southwest monsoon. Showers or thundershowers will occur at times in the western, Sabaragamu, central and northwestern provinces and in the Galle and Matara districts. Heavy rainfalls above 100 millimeters can be expected at some places in the Sabaragamu province and in the Kandy, Nuwara Eliya, Kadutara, Galle and Matara districts. Several spells of showers may occur in the northern and north-central provinces. And that was the weather report. And to end this news broadcast, a recap of the main news headlines. The ceremonial opening of the third session of the 9th Parliament is scheduled for tomorrow. Adverse weather conditions reported from parts of the country. The Cabinet approves additional duty concession allowance for migrant workers. Organizations will be able to register multiple vehicles with one business registration number from next week. 6 passengers returning from Dubai are arrested by the CID with over 3 kilograms of gold. And in news overseas, Taiwan is bracing for a potential show of force from China. In sports Commonwealth Games, Yupunavekon qualifies for men's 100-meter semi-final. Gantika Biratna establishes a Sri Lanka record in the 800-meter event. And with that, we conclude this news broadcast from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.